They literally had plyboard over some holes in the floor. And so as you would walk down, you could just feel yourself bouncing on these holy floors.
You literally had to watch your step.
You literally had to watch your step. And then it was just really dirty. And then I sat on this old, nasty couch and kind of fell into, it was like a bottomless couch. And then they had little yippy dogs, and they ran around back of the couch, and there must have been a hole underneath, because then I could feel the dogs underneath the couch, jumping up and nosing the couch where I was sitting. So I just kept getting bumped by these dogs jumping up under the couch. So that was gross, but also I was trying not to giggle because it was just a weird situation. Hello, Still a Nurse friends, and welcome to a new episode of Still a Nurse podcast. I already did a little teaser and announcement that we were going to get back into this, but today is the first real episode. Let me start by introducing my co-host. This is my husband, Clay. I'm bringing him on. We decided it would be a good idea to reintroduce myself because it's been a really long time. I thought it sounded kind of boring and monotonous to have me just talk solo. So rather than having you guys suffer through that, I decided to have Clay be my interviewer, and hopefully it is a little bit more interesting, and he also will bring in some questions that I wouldn't have thought of. So hopefully you guys enjoy this as we get back into Still a Nurse.
Hi, I'm Clay. My qualifications for this are nothing. I know nothing about nursing other than I've been a husband to one for a long time, and I get to be at home and go, ew, gross. Why do you do the things that you do? But
That's
also
basically it.
benefiting from there's a lot of benefits to being married to a nurse. I might make a separate episode all about that, of why you should marry a nurse. Because
Or maybe why you shouldn't, huh?
maybe why you should. Maybe. Yep.
All right.
We'll chat about that. But yeah, I helped Tristan set this up a long time ago, but she ran it all herself. I'm jumping in to help get it revamped. So Tristan, why nursing? What drew you to it?
So I have kind of a silly reason for nursing. I have one aunt who's a nurse, but I didn't really, that wasn't a part of it. A lot of people's like, oh, my relatives were nurses, but that wasn't it for me. For me, it was I read a book. And one of the characters I really admired was a nurse, and it was during World War II time. It's one of those fictional histories. So the events were true, but the characters were all fake. And this character joined the Navy as a nurse, and she got to have some neat experiences. She was actually like a Pearl Harbor character and was helping the soldiers there. And I just really thought what she did was neat. And at the time I was in high school, and I had taken an anatomy class, and I really loved that class. That was, I think, the first time I ever had information I was learning really glom onto my brain, to the point glom on, yes. And I just loved what I was learning. And when I tested, I was confident, and I just thought, this is amazing. I really love learning about the human body. I did not love the dissection part. We had to dissect rats, and I did not love that. It was fascinating, but gross. We also dissected a cow eye. It was really cool, actually.
A cow eye?
Yes, it was cool. But anyways, the combination of discovering I really liked the sciences in the form of the human body, plus that book made me think, oh, maybe I want to go in medical. And my first thinking was, I want to be a doctor, because when you're a kid, that's impressive and cool, and you make more money, right? So I remember going home and talking to my mom, I really think I want to become...
That's not just a kid thing.
That's true.
Adults think the same thing.
I know, but in high school, you've got all these people like, what are you going to be when you grow up? You got to figure this out now. So your brain's always working well, what should I do? I don't know. So I started thinking, I want to be a doctor. And I remember going home and telling my mom, I think I really want to be a doctor. I think that would be really cool. I really like learning these things. And she was like, that would be awesome. But you also got to think about marriage and family, because she knew that my number one goal was I wanted to be a mom. I've always wanted to be a stay-home mom at some point. That was my dream since I was 8. I remember playing with my dolls and being like, I'm going to be a mom someday. It's going to be great. So she knew that about me. And I was like, you got to think about if that's conducive for your other goals in life. She said, you can also think of other things like nursing, for instance. And so just thinking about that, plus that character in the book, I thought, yeah, maybe I'll explore this option. And to kind of jump into it a little bit and see if I liked the medical field at all, I took a medical assisting class at a tech college as part of my high school curriculum. And I loved that. I thought it was so cool. I got to learn how to give shots, draw blood, work with patients, do vital signs, learn how to assess a little bit. And I just thought that was neat. And then we actually got to do an externship. And so we'd go out and we'd work for a certain number of hours in a doctor's office or whatever and get some real life experience. And I just thought that was so neat and so fun and fulfilling. And I just could tell, like, yes, medical is the way I want to go. So that's what got me started. And then the further along I got, the more I realized that, yes, I do love nursing and that's what I want to be.
That's a great path. It's a good way to do it with that class. I know a really common way to test that out is the CNA,
Yes.
a certified nurse assistant, right?
Mhm.
So, did you ever do that?
I did later when I was going into nursing school. I mistakenly thought I had to get a CNA in order to apply. Check what is actually required,
Talk
guys.
to your guidance counselors.
Figure it out beforehand. So I went and paid to do a 6-week course. I think it was 6 week. It was really short, whatever it was. Kind of pricey, but you got it done really quick. It was like long 10-hour days, but you got it done quickly. I got my CNA. I worked very, very briefly as a CNA at a brand new assisted living center. So it was cool because it was brand new. It was nice. It wasn't stinky. The residents were all figuring out, but it was hard because it was brand new and nobody knew what we were doing. So I only worked there for, it was maybe a couple months. And then I decided I didn't like that they were figuring out how to get things done. And there's just a lot of like, we don't know what we're doing. We're figuring out as we go. I didn't love that, so I went back to coaching gymnastics, which is what I had done throughout all of high school and through my undergrad. So I did not work as a CNA for long, so I can't really claim that I ever was, I feel like, because it was maybe 2 months. But I did have a CNA.
Plug for gymnastics or any other physically demanding activity, that actually comes in really handy as a nurse. We'll probably do a separate
That's true,
series all
actually.
on physical fitness as a nurse. I mean, you're sometimes literally deadlifting people who have
Occasionally,
had a fall or need to transfer from a bed to a chair or a chair to a bed.
it can be
This
physically
chick is buff.
challenging. Used to be.
She's buff. She's got a lot of holdovers from gymnastic strength, which really help. But she also puts a lot of time into our home gym. So we'll talk about that at some point too.
Yeah. So that's how I got into the medical field, though.
And then you wanted to get into nursing, so
Yes.
you pursued an associate's degree first,
Yes, through Utah Valley University in Utah.
Utah State first, right?
Yeah, I was at Utah State, but that was for undergrad stuff, and then they didn't have a nursing program at the time, so I didn't want to go there. Looked around, in Utah Valley, or UVU, was the one that was a
Which,
good option for me.
what a weird experience it is to have. Utah Valley University was one of the lesser known universities in the state. We live in Idaho now, but both grew up in Utah. And UVU was something that nobody outside of Utah really knew until the recent shooting tragedy of Charlie Kirk. So that was weird and unfortunate to have a good school now be branded in people's minds with that tragedy. But it was a good nursing program.
Yeah, it was really good. Their program got you through the associates first, and you would take the NCLEX, and you could be working, and then you could work another year. You could apply and do the bachelor's right after, and it just kinda all flowed really smoothly. So I don't know that a lot of programs do this anymore. I don't know if they even do it at UVU anymore, but at the time, that's how it worked. We all got our associate, we got our NCLEX. A lot of us ended up getting jobs and then working while getting our bachelor for that last year. It worked out really well. I really enjoyed the coursework. I liked the learning. I really liked the clinicals.
How did you
The
like
homework wasn't my favorite.
how did you like having hospital rounds the night before your wedding? I didn't
That
like that.
was rough. Yeah. Luckily, my instructor was really nice and was like, "You can just go home at midnight." So I only had to work half the shift, and then I had to make up that other half after we got back from our honeymoon. So that was tricky. If you're trying to date and get married and stuff in nursing school, just know it's possible. You can do it, and it's fine. You just have a little bit of chaos. But yeah,
Yeah, that's
clinicals were hard.
remember we were talking about how awesome it is to marry a nurse. That's one of the drawbacks is schedules are sometimes stupid.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a future episode. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I really liked my education. I had a good experience. It was also one of those, like, I just want to get this out of the way so I can actually go work as a nurse. I'm tired of doing homework. I just wanted to get past all that and actually take care of people. The part of nursing I like the most is spending time with the people and trying to help them feel better than when I meet them, usually.
For anyone who is stuck with us for older episodes, you know that Tristan's covered a lot of really interesting alternative careers in nursing, many of which can be done from home, many of which have nothing to do with patients, a lot of
Mhm.
nurse writing, which we may need to revisit now that AI is a thing.
True.
So there are things out there for introverts in nursing. In other words, there are ways to do it. If you're more extroverted, if you really like working with people, though, this is a great field for you. If you have the inclination towards medical treatment, are not squeamish about gross things, and really like helping people, that's a kind of win 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 for you. So, how did you get your first job and what was it?
So my first job was working with a home health and hospice company in Utah. I applied to other places. I thought I wanted to be an oncology nurse, which is a nurse that helps with cancer patients. And so I tried applying to those places first, didn't get them because I didn't have experience at the time. And then I happened to know, or rather, you happened to know someone who worked for this company, and I had met her a couple times. So I was able to talk to her and get a reference from her. And it worked out great because the people that were hiring loved this individual. And they assumed we were tight buddies and that we knew each other really well. We didn't. We'd met once, I think, maybe twice.
There's a
But
concept referred
networking,
to as the power of weak ties. So,
yes,
use that in networking. You don't have to be lifelong best friends with somebody in a company to get in. If you have somebody you know somehow, even if it's a weird
a weak
distant
tie.
connection, that is already a big advantage over somebody who has zero connection.
Yes. So I was able to interview. I got a job. The job was not what I was expecting. And honestly, I wasn't excited about it at all. I didn't ever think I wanted to do home health and hospice, but also this role specifically was the on call nurse. And so I would work 7 days on, where I would be on call from 6 o'clock at night till 6 a.m. the next morning, Monday through Friday. And then the next week, I wouldn't have anything going on. So it was considered full time, but I really didn't work full time. Most of the time, the most I worked was like 24 hours in a week as far as actually being out and seeing people. Sometimes it was more, sometimes it was less.
And how much did
Um,
you get paid when you were on call? And how well did you sleep when you were on call?
you didn't sleep very well, especially the longer you did it. I don't even remember what I got paid for being on call. It wasn't
The
much.
gist was it was a pittance.
Yes.
You got this tiny little amount until
Yeah.
you were called, and then it was like, okay, now your regular wage kicks in
And I don't remember what my
while
regular
you're
wage
going.
was at this
I
point.
mean, it was not much either way,
No,
but it was
but I got experience.
that's a common thing in nursing
Mhm.
too. If you are on call, this is probably true of most jobs. If you are on call, especially if it's a night thing, you're not sleeping well because you're half asleep and half listening to your phone, scared that you're going to miss a phone call
Mhm. It's
and
true.
have professional embarrassment and have a patient out there that's not getting the treatment he or she needs. So
Mhm.
you don't sleep well, you get paid very little until you get that call, and then you have to go get dressed at 3 in the morning and drive somewhere to go help somebody. And for anyone who is considering nursing or is maybe less familiar with the field, what is home health and hospice?
So it's for people that don't need to be in a facility or in a hospital, but have cares that are more advanced than they can handle by themselves. A lot of it was like wound care. They have wounds that just aren't healing very well. And so people come in and change their dressings every day. Or they have, some people would have like a central catheter, central line in, which is just a way to get directly to the heart to deliver medications and things like that, depending on situation. I think it was infection is what this person had at that point. And so it's like having to do dressing changes to make sure it's sterile. Like you can't really do that yourself very well if you don't know, because you're all these things can go wrong and you could infect your heart. And so there were things like that. A lot of the stuff I did was actually on the hospice side. And so I had a lot of patients that had Alzheimer's or dementia or cancers or Parkinson's. So as people that needed help with simple things and just medication, just helping with medication, just being checked on regularly so that they are safe and they're being cared for, to make sure they're not getting bed sores, and also to make sure their caregivers are doing okay, because it is huge strain taking care of these individuals who are not able to take care of themselves, or they can get pretty feisty and grouchy when they have dementia. And so it's like they are watching their loved one change into a totally different person and still trying to love and take care of them and give them all that they need to keep them home rather than sending them to a skilled nursing facility or something like that. And so it was really neat for that aspect. I actually loved the hospice side, which surprised me because it's not something I was looking for. And I did not like home health at all because I don't like wound care, turns out. I don't like it at all. It's gross. I don't like skin. I'm not a skin person or a mouth person. I don't like spit. I don't like skin. Those are my two things that I really don't do well with.
You figure out pretty quickly what options are gonna be good for you. Things like that, figure
Mhm.
out what you would or would not want to get into. I considered dentistry as a kid, and for Tristan, that's, like, nightmare level stuff, like, that's
Mhm.
disgusting for her,
It
and
is.
she could never be a dermatologist for the same reason, which is, like, everyone's got their own weird things. Here's what I couldn't handle. She had 0 problem, and I think this is the grossest thing ever. She had 0 problem as a hospice nurse being the one there when somebody dies and your body relaxes everything, all the sphincters and everything, and you literally have nastiness oozing out of a dead corpse. Her job in hospice was to clean all that up and try to console the family if they were there and keep this person as clean and presentable as possible while the
Mortuary.
mortician would show up and collect the body. But the bedside manner of that was crucial. Like if you can't handle being in a situation to kind of be a temporary grief counselor, frankly, then that's not for you. And if you would be freaked out about dealing with dead bodies that are doing nasty things, it's not for you. It's definitely not for me. And I would just hear her come home and whoo, whoo, gross. Why'd you do what you do?
Yeah.
But for those families that are there, like how grateful are they for a hospice nurse who can come and help with that? So that was interesting. I'm curious, did you ever feel unsafe as somebody in your young 20s going in the middle of the night into a stranger's home by yourself?
No, because I can't think of a single time where I was going into a home for the first time in the middle of the night. Usually, it was somewhere I'd already been at least once before, so I already knew the person, I knew how to get there, I knew where to park, and so that made it so it wasn't frightening because 'cause I'd gone there another time when it was daylight. There were times I didn't feel safe driving because it would be in the winter, so it'd be snowing, and I'd be driving on the freeway 45 minutes to an hour away from my house at midnight.
And the plows weren't really
And the
doing
plows weren't
much.
really out in full force yet. So those times were a little bit more scary just because the road conditions. But no, I usually felt safe in the homes. There were a couple homes that I felt really gross being in just because they were really dirty,
Did you have
or
any
falling
hoarders?
apart.
Did you have
I
hoarders?
didn't
I can't
have any
remember.
hoarders, no, but we had people in really sad, poverty level situations where, like, the floors, they literally had, plyboard over some holes in the floor, and so as you would walk down, you could just feel yourself bouncing on these holy floors.
You literally had to watch your step.
You literally had to watch your step, and then it was just really dirty, and then I sat on this old nasty couch and kinda fell into, like, it was like a bottomless couch, and then they had little yippy dogs, and they ran around back of the couch, and there must have been a hole underneath because then I could feel the dogs underneath the couch, like, jumping up and nosing the couch where I was sitting, so I just kept getting bumped by these dogs jumping up under the couch. So that was gross, but also I was trying not to giggle because it was just a weird situation. And I felt bad because this is their person's home and they're struggling and they have all these things in life that they're really not doing well with. So it's just a weird set of emotions of, ew, this is gross. I don't like being here. This is so amusing having these dogs hitting my bum under the couch and also feeling sad for these individuals and wondering how can I help them in any way? Because this is a lot for this person to be going through. So there are situations more like that where it's just kind of like, I don't really want to touch anything. I don't want to sit down. And I just want to get out of here as quick as possible. But I was pretty fortunate in that most of the places I went were pretty well cared for. And this was like in the Salt Lake areas of the whole Salt Lake Valley in Utah, and also part of Davis County in Utah is what I covered.
What's the furthest you had to drive in the middle of the night?
Um, that would have been from I was in Draper, Utah at the time. I went from Draper up to Layton, Bountiful. I guess Layton was the furthest I had to drive.
Which took how long? Ish.
45 minutes to an hour. When you're traveling in the dark and late at night, there's not bad traffic, so you make good time. That was an interesting experience, especially fresh out of school. I would say I don't recommend it fresh out of school because there's a lot of things you don't know yet. You have a good idea or theory of how things work, but you don't know a lot. In this situation, you're in a clinic or a hospital, and you have all these other staff members who are there to help you if you need help or if you have a question like, hey, I'm not sure how to do this. Can you help me figure this out? You can do things like that. But when you're a home health or hospice person, you are on your own, literally. You have like a bunch of stuff in the back of your car. You have all your supplies you hopefully will need, and you bring it with you. And you better know how to do it. Otherwise, you have to call and wake somebody else up at stupid o'clock at night and say, either can you walk me through this or will you please come and be my assist, which can just be stressful. So there were a couple situations where
And embarrassing.
yeah, there's a couple situations where that was stressful and embarrassing. Like, luckily, this was not the middle of the night, but trying to get a catheter in a woman, and I was just really struggling, and I kept trying, I couldn't get it. So I actually had to call another on-call nurse because she was the only one I could get a hold of. And like, can you please come and help me? I cannot get this. I've tried multiple times. It's not working. So that those situations make it a lot harder.
So it's beneficial to be
I feel like
somewhere where
having a
you've
little bit
got
more,
a mentor type person there
yeah,
with you, a supervisor who can
while
step
you're
in and
still
help.
learning that young. Yeah, I feel like being a more seasoned nurse, home health and hospice makes more sense in a lot of ways, unless you're working like the day shift and there are lots of other nurses going around because you can be like, hey, I need you to come meet me at this house and do this with me. But I feel like that was kind of rough to do as a starting job. It was good though, because it allowed me to get through schooling. And when we did have our first baby, I was able to be home during the day, be stay home mom basically during the day. And then he would get home from work. And then that's when I would be on call and either have to leave or just be available to leave. So it was convenient that way. I was still working and still getting to be the mom. So pros and cons.
Okay. Did you have another job before you had some time away?
So no, I worked that job for about 3 years. And then we went to law school for you in Iowa. And we didn't have any family there. So we decided it would be best for me to stay home because we had two kids at that time. One was just 1 month old. We had a 2-year-old and a 1 month old. And so we decided rather than having me work and then put a whole paycheck every month to childcare, that we would just use student loans and have me be a stay-at-home mom. And I was able to be a stay-at-home mom for 9.5 years, thanks to this guy, which was great. I loved every bit of it most of the time.
She had all that practice cleaning up dead bodies, so cleaning up nasty kid stuff was nothing, right?
Yeah, it was fine.
Ew.
Um, no,
She's
there
not very squeamish if you can't tell.
about some things. So I got back into nursing. I kept my license active, right? I didn't want to let that lapse because I figured at some point it would be nice to go back to work. That was always the goal. Someday when kids are all a little bit better age wise, I would go back to work and it would be great.
So say more about that. What does
Mhm.
that mean to keep a license active? How do you do that?
So you have to get a certain amount of education or patient hours, skilled hours. And it varies state by state. And we're actually going to do a whole episode just on keeping your license active. So we're going to get back to that into more detail. But basically, you have to do certain things to make it so you can legally keep your nursing license active so that if you do want to go back and get a job, you can. If you choose not to do anything and don't keep up with that, do the paperwork, pay the fee to get a new license every 2 to 3 years, depending on where you live, then that can lapse and become void. And then if you want to become a nurse again, you've got to basically do a refresher nursing course or go all the way back through the whole thing in nursing school. And I know someone who did that. One of the people that trained me to work hospice, she had been a nurse earlier in her career, and then her husband had been the one providing. So she'd been able to stay at home, and she decided, I won't ever need this again. I don't want to work. So she let hers lapse. And then later, when they're both grandparents, her husband gets really sick and is no longer able to work. And so she had to figure out what to do, and she only knew nursing. And so she had to go back as a grandmother, go back to nursing school, get all the way through it, and then start working again. And she was
Yeah, hold on,
very
hold on. So I want to reiterate that. Like, that's a big deal. Like,
yes,
you have to have a complete
restart.
restart
Because everything changes so much in the
to do
medical
that.
field. You can't just be like, oh, I learned all this 20 years ago. Like, well, most of that's not working anymore. Most of
Well,
that's changed.
and we'll get into that too because you
So,
had a 9-year break too.
yeah.
So we'll get into that. But I just like
Mhm.
we can't stress that enough.
Mhm.
That she had a complete start over all of her time in nursing school. Even
Paying for it
frustrating
once, you got to
frustrating
pay for it
things like
again.
taking the NCLEX. Like, you got to put in all the time. You got to put in all the money. You got to put in all the stress. You got
Mhm.
to do all the stupid rotation things as though you're brand new again. Like, just keep your license active. is
Yeah,
way
if at all
easier.
possible.
And we should say this is based in the US system. I was pleasantly shocked to look at the statistics as we were revamping this show and see that there's a significant portion of you out there in Germany, in Frankfurt. So
I don't
somebody
know what nursing is like there,
somebody
sorry.
explain that. And willkommen. Guten Tag oder guten Abend, depending on when you're listening to this. And yeah, happy to have you. Love to see something in the comments of why in the world, how did you find this show over in Frankfurt?
Yeah, so this is all talking about US-based nursing because obviously that's what I know. I've never done nursing outside of the US.
But that doesn't mean we won't have guests from outside the US. So
We would love to
if
have
you're
guests from
interested,
outside the US.
leave a comment.
Yeah, we love hearing nursing stories. But anyway, she had to restart. So she was writing my case like, no matter what happens, how many kids you have, do not let your license lapse. It was such a bad decision. So I that has stuck with me. So I did the education that I needed to keep my license active during that 9.5 year gap. And then the whole reason I started this is just I just kept feeling like there was something I was supposed to be doing. And I kept complaining to this guy, like, every time we go visit our friends who were both nurses, I hear their cool stories. I hear all the things they're doing. And I think, I don't even know how to do any of that stuff. I feel so dumb. I feel so useless. Like, yeah, I have a license, but I feel like I couldn't even get a job because I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And so that was just really kind of disheartening. I wasn't planning on going to work at the time, but just knowing that if I wanted to, it would be a challenge. And I just really doubted I had the skills and the knowledge anymore to do any of that. And I think really you kind of just got tired of me complaining. Like, why don't you do something about it? Start a podcast, which I thought was ridiculous because I don't know if I had ever listened to any podcasts. And so the fact that he was like, you should start one and be the host, I thought was laughable. And I was like, no, that's the stupidest idea ever. That's not going to help me. But then it was just one of those nagging thoughts that just kept circling back. So finally, I was just thought, okay, fine, I'll try it. And so I started this podcast and started just talking to any nurse that I knew who'd be willing to just tell me about their nursing story, their career, what they did, how they got there. And I really loved hearing those stories and to see just how broad the nursing field is in general. Because in school, I feel like you just learn about the facilities, hospitals, the assisted living. You just learn about all those things, the
It's a
doctor's
very narrow
clinics.
focus.
Yeah, they just have a very narrow focus, but there's so much more out there than what nursing school teaches you. Like I recently learned there's forensic nursing. I know someone who's in that. I'm hoping I can get her on the show. I thought that's really cool. And basically, they help with sad cases like domestic abuse and violence or rape cases, things like that. Like she goes and helps with those cases with the police. And so there's things like that. There's prison nurses, school nurses. There's just so much, which is what I really focused this podcast on was just learning so that I could feel like I was still gaining more of an education on what is out there for nursing, what you need to do, what skills are important, and just how you get into these different things and realizing there's so much more than I knew.
Yeah, and the title comes from her complaining, saying, "I don't even feel like I'm still a nurse. I don't feel like
Mhm.
I'm a nurse anymore," because she had all these years away from it. This was a way to connect into the nursing field, continue education, and we know a lot of people that take pauses to be a stay-at-home mom. And we should also clarify it's a misnomer that all nurses are female. Like there are many male nurses, and they're some of our favorite guests to have on because they have a different perspective. It's interesting. Whatever it is, people take a sabbatical, people take time away for life changes, but you're still a nurse. You still have that skill set, you still have that drive, you still have that education. And we don't want anyone who is in a pause to feel that they're no longer part of the group. And also to help anyone who is looking to either transition away from nursing into a pause to know how to handle that, how to do that effectively so that you can come back if you want to later. Or somebody who has stepped away to transition back into finding a new job for the first time in maybe a long time. So we're here for you. We're a resource for that. And that's why Still a Nurse has the name that it does.
And that's a great segue into where we're going with this. So now you kind of have more of a reminder or first time introduction into who I am and how this all came about. Why we had such a big break is because I felt really strongly after we found a place to live. We spent a long time figuring out where we're going to move. So once we figured that out, I was thinking, all right, time to jump back into my podcast. And then I kept feeling really strongly like I need to get a job. which remember, I hadn't had a job in a while. So the rest of this season is going to be how I went from not having a job in 9.5 years, not having a resume, and not having any references
References.
because the job or the company that I worked for before literally doesn't exist anymore. It was taken over by something else, and I could not get a hold of any of the people that I'd formerly worked with. So I had no references, no resume, and I went from that to being able to get a job at a hospital here in our new town and had just the experience of going from zero to, I don't know, full-fledged active nurse working 12-hour shifts in a hospital, which is also something I didn't ever think I'd do. I'm pretty sure I said at least once, if not multiple times on past seasons, that I would never want to work in a hospital or didn't think I could ever work 12-hour shifts. I ended up doing that. And guess what? I worked nights even. And so just the whole journey of how that worked out and how I got to that point, I got to be a charge nurse for a little bit, very little bit. And then now I have started a different job. I left that hospital job and I'm somewhere else. And I just wanted to share that journey with all of you in case there are others who are trying to figure out how do I get back in? What's the first step? Or how do I keep my license active so that I can do that? Because I'm currently taking a break to do either a new career venture, try to start your own business, or health or family, whatever it is. How do you get to all these different phases and go in and out of nursing? By no means am I an expert, but this is what worked for me. And so I just thought maybe it can help others who are trying to figure out how to make those next things happen. So the next several episodes are all going to be how to do that, or at least how I did that and what that was like for me, but also for my family, because we do have 6 young kids ranging from 3 to 12.
Because we're crazy.
Yes, you have to be a special kind of crazy. So that's what is coming up. And I hope you guys really enjoy it. If you have any questions or requests or want to go deeper into something, please let us know. We would love to help anyone who feels like this is something that could benefit their lives. So remember, till next time, you're still a nurse. That's the ending I was supposed to do. Couldn't remember.
I'm leaving that in.
No, don't.